Hey folks. So my next vlog was going to be about kind of a follow-up to the South Park thing I was talking about with the season finale, and I do still want to do that, but I'm kind of still waiting for more opinions and thoughts about it so I can kind of collect things together and make something kind of fuller and more well thought out about it. But in the meantime, something came up today on my Twitter feed that I thought was worth talking about because I found it to be a very interesting subject, and it's something that I do feel pretty strongly about, and I've been seeing a lot of different opinions about it, and I wanted to kind of throw my 2 cents in. So for those of you who don't know, if you don't use Twitter or if you just haven't really been keeping up with it, basically they have recently changed their block function. Truthfully, I don't know the exact difference between how it works now compared to the way it used to, but the general deal is, unless you have privatized your Twitter to where only people who you allow to follow you can see your tweets, anybody can tweet at you and bug you and harass you. But if you've blocked them, then you're just not seeing their tweets show up on your feed. So you're basically just ignoring them, but you're not actually giving yourself any privacy otherwise. So before I continue delving further into this, I want to say, because I feel like there will probably be some people who look at where I'm coming from and think that it's kind of invalidated because of who I am, but I don't consider myself to be any sort of like big deal. I don't like get up on myself and over any sort of popularity or anything that I have from the work that I do. I'm tackling this subject just as a person. I have some other kind of perspective because of the position that I've been in before, but just I don't want anybody to like kind of get the wrong idea about that, and some people probably still will, and I guess I apologize for that, but just bear with me. I just understand that like I'm just some dude, and I do understand where a lot of the different opinions are coming from on this whole thing, but it's important to me, and that's why I want to talk about it. So just I'm just a dude. He's a dude, she's a dude, we're all dudes, yeah. Just, take that for what it is. So, I am all for freedom of speech, and I'm all for privacy as well, and I'm all for honesty. So, something I've learned in the last decade or so, particularly the last decade, because that was around when I started producing stuff and really, getting very heavily invested into the internet, even before that, so really well over a decade, but either way. What I've kind of discovered, what I've really, really taken to heart and applied to what I do, how I conduct myself in the last several years, is that the internet is the extreme of freedom of speech. Now, what I mean by that is, obviously, there are cases that are there are places built for privacy. There's privatized Facebook pages to varying levels. There's privatizing your own Twitter, things like that. But for the most part, the internet is built for publicity. When I say that, I mean the deal is, if you write something or say something, really, on the internet, it's there forever. It is there. And it doesn't matter when or what the circumstance was or what the excuse is or whatever, how old you were, what stage in your life, what was happening, etc. The fact is, if you write something on the internet and you put it there, it is there forever. It's there. Somebody will find it. Somebody will, even if you erase it, it's still there. It's archived somewhere, some way, somehow. Somebody will find it. And to a certain extent, even those things that I just listed that are supposed to be privatized, people find that stuff too. It sucks. I don't think that's cool that people do that, but that's the way it is. And if anything, it's just a challenge for crazy people like hackers and etc. who just look at it as another game to play. But that's a whole other subject. My point is, the internet is all about publicity. Now, I've done a lot of stuff throughout the years, and this is not to excuse myself. This is just to put it all out on the table. When I was younger, and when I was first getting really, really heavy into content creation and the community behind that, and getting to know other artists, and as I started making a name for myself in around 2006 to 2010 or so, kind of in that area, was when I started like anybody really knew who I was. I made a lot of mistakes. I had a lot of major learning experiences in conducting myself, and I won't bore you with specifics, but just it was a huge learning experience of that very concept of when you say something, and then it's there, and then people are going to interpret it whatever way they want, and then whether you explain yourself or not, etc. And then it's like you have to be careful. Now like I said before, I'm all about honesty. I think that honesty is very, very important. But, people are going to make what they want of what you say. And that's the case for real life, of course, too. But the difference is, in real life, you don't have necessarily an archive of every single thing that was said, every single look of how everybody was like conducting themselves and portraying and the way that they were saying it or whatever. On the internet, generally, it's just text everywhere. It's text. It is what it is, and you will, and that's how it will be forever, and it's unchangeable. That's it. So, what does this mean? What this means is sites like Twitter and Tumblr and many others are inherently public, So, and I've, from those mistakes that I mentioned earlier, I've had a lot of people who have kind of gone after me with a knife in the figurative sense. Thankfully, not the literal sense yet. That's not an invitation, by the way. My point about that is the fact that those people are always going to exist. Do I wish those people would learn to stop? Of course. Everybody does. It's not good to be a douchebag. It's not good to be a bully to any extent. But people do it. It's part of human nature, unfortunately. So, to me, it's as simple as, Twitter's block function is different. All right, well, I have a public Twitter that has X amount of subscribers. I'm not going to privatize it just because I have a few people who are going to pester me or be very slanderous or mean or whatever. And I have people who do that still to this day. And, that's something that I have to accept. And my choice of dealing with that, and really the main solution that would come with where I'm coming from is to just ignore them. And Twitter's block function does that. It doesn't stop them from doing it, of course, but it prevents me from having to see it, and therefore I don't have to think about it. Now, this solution is not necessarily, the one that everybody wants to just immediately take, because it's not easy. And I understand that. I'm not saying that it's easy for anybody to just be like, oh, I'll just ignore them and it's over, But the fact is, this whole thing with Twitter changing their, how their block function works, it's really no different in terms of just how the internet inherently is, There's only so many things that you can do about living your life privately online, and being able to speak your mind and etc. Now that said, I also don't think that the solution is, I just won't express my opinion. I'll just be private in terms of how I conduct myself. I don't think that's what needs to happen either. I think that also comes down to a matter of tact. I'm all about honesty, but I think that tact, which is in tandem with respect, is also important. So, and the fact of the matter is, when you put yourself out there on the internet, you're taking the same risk as anybody else is. Whether you have some sort of like brevity to your name, of any level or not, it's all the same risk. You know, it's the different levels depending on how it's going to impact your life when you say something that people will interpret in different ways. In fact, the truth of that is, you know, and kind of being exemplified here is, I'm taking a risk saying these things right now in this video that you're listening to. Like, literally, what I'm doing right now, I am carrying a balance of, I'm being careful of what I say, I'm being honest, I'm attempting to be respectful and tactful as much as I can, giving my perspective that, you know, will be interpreted in whatever way people will take it. And the fact that I'm saying it, I'm recording this, I'm going to make it into a video, I'm putting it up, and that video will be up forever for the foreseeable future. And even if it were for some reason taken down, somebody somewhere, in theory, is saving it and may put it up somewhere else, somewhere. It exists. It's there forever, you know? That risk that I'm taking is the same risk that anybody else takes on the internet, period. You know? And again, even if you're only adhering to completely private stuff like privatized Twitters and Facebook pages, etc., there's still people who sometimes will find it through one reason or another. That's a very rare case, but it's still something that has to be thought about. And if you want to get really super like paranoid about it, which I don't, but then you could even bring it down to, oh, well, the government is seeing everything that you're doing and saying anyway. You know, some people think that that's the level of care that people put into that in particular varies. So I'm not going to go deep into that. But so what does this all really mean? Well, my kind of life philosophy is that life is a balancing act. And maybe that sounds really corny, but I think that it really does apply here too. And this also goes beyond just the whole issue of, you know, Twitter changing their blocking system. This is a general rule of thumb that I think anybody can take something away from and anybody can think about and apply. It's good to find a balance, knowing just how life is going to be, and how the internet is going to be. With the internet, as I've said, everything is public. There are always going to be stalkers and assholes and harassers and what have you. But I don't think that should stop anybody from being who they are. I think you can be honest, you can be tactful, and you can do everything and anything you really want when it gets down to it, which is the good and the bad side of it. But as for dealing with it, it's entirely how you choose to react. I once heard the phrase "happiness is a choice," and it's true. Do you choose to take it personally and get upset, or do you choose to let it roll off your back and be happy? You know, and it's not easy for everybody. And I'm not insisting that like this is just the be all end all ultimate done solution to everything, but one of the things that I've learned, probably the most important thing that I've learned from all my experience with dealing with some very, very aggressive and rabid, hateful people who have gone after me for a variety of reasons, whether it's, you know, incited by something I have said in the past, or simply for who I am, for what I do, for how I act even now. There's always going to be people like that throughout my own life. And through even just anybody, whether they're in my kind of position or not, everybody's going to have obstacles like that to overcome. And the internet is just a fucking arena for those kind of people to just go in and have a fucking ball, really. So I think that what any person can just kind of take away from this is to accept the internet for what it is. And the internet is a great place. It really is. Like I've gone on and on about how it really can be like an amazing thing for people, and it's really, really progressed us as human beings when it gets down to it. But it's built for publicity, no matter what. And I think that as long as you accept that, and you can work a personal balance of being able to be honest and being tactful, and accepting that there are going to be people who will disagree with you, some people who will do that to the point of being very mean and aggressive and harassing. If you can make peace with that, let it roll off your back, and just continue to be who you are and live your life, then the internet can be a very happy place for you to be. You know, all of my experiences have really zened me out in terms of like being able to deal with when something bad comes along, by my own volition or otherwise, or by my control or otherwise, I should say. And it's made me a much stronger person. Often I always hear a lot of other content creators being like, "Oh, I don't read the comments. I don't even want to deal with that." And I read every comment. Really, when it gets down to it, I read every comment. And I get hateful ones, I get mean ones and nasty ones, and critical ones, and unjustified ones, etc. But I read every single one of them. Because I accept, and really that's where this whole concept of what I'm doing right now, these vlogs lately have come from too, is the fact that I do read all that stuff because I accept it for what it is. It's what YouTube was built for. It's what the internet was built for. So I think if everybody can learn to just kind of accept and embrace that as much as possible, I think that just the internet could be a happier place for people. So that's what I think. You agree? Am I a privileged piece of shit for saying any and all of this? Am I nuts? Am I right? Am I wrong? I want to know. And by that same kind of concept, let me know. Tell me. I will read it. No matter what way you choose to respond, I'm curious. I want to know people's thoughts about this. So let me know below. Feel free to tweet me, or ask me something on Tumblr about it. And if you want to subscribe and like, etc., go right ahead. And yeah, so I hope maybe you've taken something away from this, even if it's just a brief thought. And if anything, thanks for listening.